Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Weekender. My Friday partner in crime is back with me. It's David Hunter. How are you, David?
Very well, thanks, mate. Yeah, how are you?
Good stuff. Yeah, not too
Good.
bad. It was weird screaming for my triple captain to be sent off last night. Um, we'll talk about it in the. I'm probably very much in the minority there, by the way. Obviously, lots going on in terms of managerial stuff in the Premier League this week with Sean Dyche and Thomas Frank losing their jobs. We're going to talk about that. A little discussion about managers actually making the job up within the Premier League to establish sides who, let's say, would expect to challenge towards the top of the table. Ange on the overlap. Interesting timing. A coincidence, perhaps. We're going to cover some of that because it's quite interesting from a Tottenham perspective. As Thomas Tuchel has signed a new contract extension with England. Have a little chat about the FA Cup and also just a little bit of a kind of overview of where the Championship is at the moment. Sort of just over two and a half months to the end of the Championship season. Worth keeping an eye on who might be coming up at this sort of stage. And there's a few interesting stories towards the bottom of that table as well. But yes, we must start with last night's Brentford versus Arsenal encounter. It finished 1-1. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. As I've already said, I went, send him off.
Yeah, it was. So I'm not on triple captain this week, so it was. Feels like I've got away with it a little bit. Um, yeah, it was a weird thing to have. It might be the first time I've ever captained a defender. I don't think I ever went there with a Trent or anybody else. I don't think, but it was weird knowing that you've captained a defender and like you really don't want him to get any points really because so many. It feels like pretty much all of the FPL community, at least, have triple captured him, haven't they? For anyone who has, I mean, it's only half time, isn't it? And last night was always the harder game
The
of
more
the
difficult of the two, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So don't lose hope. Yeah, as a game though, I thought it took a little while to get going, but it was a really good watch by the end, wasn't it? And I would say I would rather focus on how good Brentford were than how bad Arsenal were, really, because they were in a real game last night, Arsenal, and it might end up being a great point for them by the end because Brentford could easily have won it. Arsenal could have won it as well with that Martinelli chance at the end. I thought really good save by Kelleher. But I was just so impressed with Brentford. I think it's the best I've ever seen Thiago look, actually. And I spoke yesterday on the main pod about the dilemma I had between Dewsbury Hall and Thiago, who to play. I've really got away with one there, haven't I? Because Thiago was just such a handful. And in fairness to Arsenal, it took all their sort of defensive nous to sort of keep him out, really, because that block from Mascara is just unreal on him in the second half, isn't it?
Although we let him in the first
I guess so,
instance
yeah.
as well.
But yeah, he sort of made up for it. Yeah, really good second half. It was quite something to see Arsenal kind of out Arsenaled at set pieces at times, wasn't it? You know, with the way Brentford had long throws
I
and
saw, I mean,
corners and stuff like that.
it's probably what you see on Twitter, but I felt like every Arsenal fan was complaining on social media last night about Brentford's behaviour on set
Yeah,
pieces.
I
And
think
I'm
there was
sure it was a minority, by the
yeah,
way.
I think there's a bit of tongue in cheek about that at times as well. But yeah, it was full credit to Brentford. I mean, they really stuck it to Arsenal last night, and yeah, I thought the Madueke goal, good header from him. I think that actually comes from Arsenal's reputation from corners, actually, because maybe against any other team, Coyote just lets that go for a corner, maybe, but it looked like he was so keen to sort of prevent the corner, clears it to Nkapie, and he just puts a great ball in, doesn't he? And good header from Madueke. So you think at 1-0, don't you? Arsenal more than likely going to see it out. And then I'm thinking,
Yeah, yeah. There was a word that came out of my mouth, and it began with F. I'm not going to lie about that whatsoever because, and the reason for that was I obviously I'm not enjoying watching Arsenal games at the moment. Right, my team's in its own sort of state. I obviously want them to get caught by City, and many of you know I don't think that's going to happen. And last night still doesn't change my opinion on that. But the way the game was going, it was beginning to feel like oh, I don't know, Brentford might do this actually. So when the goal came and the manner of it, it was like it's a good header from Madueke and a brilliant cross. But it felt like Kelleher should have got there for me. When you watch it back, he kind of oversteps his left foot and then he's struggling to get back. But it felt like it's a good header, but it felt like a really soft goal. And then obviously the way the last sort of 10, 15 minutes unfolded, genuinely, David, I thought Brentford were going to win.
Mm. Yeah, same. Yeah.
So let's kind of talk Brentford FPL a little bit before we kind of overanalyze, I presume, on Arsenal. Absolutely, despite outcome, very pleased that I played Thiago this week, even though it was against the all-in strategy. Yeah, I mean, I was screaming for him to score when he had that chance against Mascara, and it was a great recovery. And he also had the effort later on as well that he kind of, I'm so blazed over is a bit harsh, but he could well have done better with it. Yeah, he looked lively. He's going to be a really good option. I mean, anybody who wants to buy a forward in FPL right now who doesn't own him, looking at Brighton at home, Burnley away, Bournemouth away, Wolves at home, Leeds away. And then, by the way, even if you have, say, already used your wild card after the blank, Everton at home, Fulham at home, which could easily become a double if they make an FA Cup semi-final. They've obviously got a great tie on Monday night, and then West Ham at home 35, and it's a rough last three games. So even to carry through with his consistency as a talisman for them, yeah, and he gave them two at the back. I know Saliba was a miss for Arsenal, but he gave them a headache all game long.
Yeah.
He was a handful.
He signed a new deal today, I
Oh,
believe.
see, nice.
Thiago, yeah, an extra 2 years, yeah. Yeah, he's one of those where I'm very happy to have him now. From now, he's got that Arsenal game out of the way, and very lucky that he didn't punish me for not playing him last night. Yeah, all the Brentford stuff. I mean, Nathan Collins didn't play again at the back, and I thought Ayer and Vandenberg were pretty good. To be fair, there's no real need to rush Collins back anytime soon, is there? At the
I mean,
moment?
what an amazing achievement. 7 points from Villa away, Newcastle away, and Arsenal at home. And that easily could have been nine.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So I think the fact that those guys have done quite well, if you said to me now, does Nathan Collins start against Brighton? I'd say probably not. But let's see what's picked at Macclesfield on Monday night. They obviously don't have the deepest squad. Will they, considering what happened to Palace, will they change the team quite a lot? Difficult to say.
Mm.
But because of that, you probably, I think, avoid them defensively. So if you're looking at teams with fixture swings, kind of as discussed on the game review pod yesterday, you're kind of looking at Brentford, Bournemouth, timing feels right. Now, even though Bournemouth are away to West Ham are in good form, it probably feels more sensible right now to go the Bournemouth route because the Brentford route, it just feels a little bit confusing at the moment till we've got a bit more clarity. What you don't want to do is, gamble on Vandenberg again now, and then he comes out the team. If you're heading towards the blank, you can't afford shit like that at the moment. So
No,
like Senesi, Hill, Jimenez, Truffert, all of that feels much safer, and Bournemouth's fixtures are outstanding as well. So yeah, I can't see me unless if one of the centre backs got injured on Monday night or in between now and next week, I genuinely one of them might come onto the table immediately. But I wouldn't want to buy the fullbacks. I like Kyoto. I like that Rico Henry's now getting a consistent run. It's really nice to see because I think when he picked up the ACL injury at Newcastle, which is, I don't know, 2 years ago now, I really think he was on the verge of an England call up, actually. So it's nice to see him having his first consistent run in the team, but I wouldn't buy the fullbacks.
no.
It's the centre back you want. Goalkeeper will be an option for a few people. Those who want to make a goalkeeper transfer at the moment will look at that with the fixtures. As just said, I'm not a huge fan of him, I must say. I appreciated his save from Martinelli. Am I right in saying that was his only save in the game, though?
Feels about right. That yeah, I think so. Yeah. Who's
Yeah, I'm
Brentford's?
unconvinced on him, Keller. I think he goes from the very good to looking quite ordinary at different times.
Yeah, he was one of those at Liverpool where
You know him well, obviously.
you were very happy to have him as your number two.
Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted him as your number one, I don't think.
No, no. Obviously, the club felt the same. They were happy to cash in on him. Who did Brentford play in 31 again? The
Away to Leeds,
away to Leeds, right? Okay.
which I mean, Ellen Road is very,
Yeah.
very tough. But you're looking at the fixtures before and afterwards, looks very good. And actually, for those dead ending to 31, particularly before, it's not just defensively. And Thiago, you might want to look at, you want to look in the midfield area as well. Dango, handful as well. Good. It looks to me like I felt a sense in him of taking responsibility last night of I've got a really important role and I'm good enough actually. We were quite critical, or at least I was, of the fee that Brentford paid Bournemouth for him. At the moment, you'd have to say that looks absolutely fine. When they lost at White Hart Lane, which was the last home league game I saw my team win in December, I don't want to say got booed by the Brentford fans, but there was a moment where they wanted him to go and press and he wouldn't do it. Maybe it was under instruction, but it was late in the game. They were 2-0 down, right? It's like, have a go. And he just stood off it. And you could hear the kind of really unhappy reaction to him.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now, I presume that's like maybe it was at a certain stage or something. It's obviously, I think it's turned around now. And of course, importantly, in 27, Kevin Sade's back as well.
Yeah.
Sade or Utara for you?
I think it's Tara, just given the saving. You're quite big on Sharda as a player, aren't you? I think you really like him.
Yeah, till I get linked to my team and I found no.
Yeah. I think it's pretty close, and with that in mind, the saving on Utara's would give him the nod. I think he always he's always just such a lively threat, isn't he, Utara? Whenever I see him, I bought him. I think maybe on wildcard actually to shift him on fairly soon. I think forget the game they had. It might even been Burnley actually when he scored against Burnley, maybe got an assist. So I've got happy memories of him as an FPL asset. Yeah, I think Sharda versus Utara. I'd go with Utara. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's 100% given that Sade would play either at this moment. I say that I'd be very surprised, but I don't think it's a given when we look at what's happened with Collins and how Brentford have done so well over the last few games that they don't go, actually, run again.
Yeah. No Henderson
Good
last
too.
night either. Henderson's not deemed essential either in midfield. So I think Andrews is pretty happy with his squad in general to go with whatever he trusts, I think.
I think generally speaking as well, he's a player that will go very much under the radar. And actually, he's actually not been terrible even from a DEFCON fantasy perspective recently. But I think upturn they've had since that game at Tottenham has been more minutes for Vitaly Janelt, actually. He's quite an important player for them. Since that defeat at Tottenham, by the way, game week 15, they've only lost twice in the leg.
Yeah, they're doing great.
Which were Forest at home, disappointment, and Chelsea away. And actually, they could probably make claim to say they were unfortunate in both of those matches as well. So, I mean, they're genuinely in European contention now.
Well, they had identical points and goal difference to Liverpool at the start of the week. So the
well, no, they were one ahead of you, weren't they? Till VAR wanted to stick its oar in, mate.
yeah, yeah, they're doing great, Brentford. I mean, they with the run they've got coming, they could knock on the door for the European places. I don't expect them to make it, if I'm honest, but they're having a great season, no question about that.
Seventh will highly likely be Europa League, worst case Conference League. That's up for grabs.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were good last night, definitely.
Should Gabriel have walked?
I'm on the fence on this one. I think if he hadn't been booked, there's every chance he would have been booked for it.
I think that's the answer, yeah.
But I think I'm okay with him not walking for it, having been on a yellow card. And I know you can say it shouldn't matter, but I think I understand the ref not sending him off for it. If I'm being totally honest, it would have been scenes if he had been sent off. Although he would have only have missed the Wigan game, in fairness, wouldn't he? He would have been back for the Wolves game had he been sent off.
That never occurred to me till it happened in the moment, and I went, "Oh my god, he's gonna be like a -6 or something. This is incredible." We wouldn't have been obviously because of Def. Mind you, I think he'd already hit Defcon by that point in the game, hadn't he? He actually got a monster return for Defcon last night.
Yeah, Rice got it as well in the end, didn't he?
But we think, by the way, Declan Rice. I think Tom Hadley has said there's a high chance that he'll get another point on the bonus and that won't update till next Wednesday night. Great. After they obviously played a game against Wolves. Yeah, it hadn't occurred to me that, oh shit, if an Arsenal player got a professional foul red card here and only missed one game, they would obviously miss the Wigan game rather than the second part of the double game week. When it happened, my brain went into autopilot mode. Send him off!
Get him off!
I thought about it. Well, Brentford could still win this with him on the pitch, couldn't they? That would be all right. And I think, well, if Brentford score again, that's going to take another one effective 3 off his total anyway. ah, bollocks, get him off. Like, yeah, so strange one. I don't suppose that would have had too many people shouting for your triple captaincy to get set off. But yeah, it wasn't 100% he should have gone. But I do agree with you. I think it probably is a yellow card offence. And I don't think, let's put it this way, had he gone, I don't think there's too much complaints people could have
No, no,
if
that's
that was
true.
the case.
Yeah.
So, interestingly, at the World Cup, they're going to review second yellows, aren't they?
Are
Apparently.
they? Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Apparently.
Do we need that?
Which, mm, well, here's the thing that's, I think Sam O'Sullivan, one of our, it might have been Sam, could have been someone else, made a really good point about it on Patreon. It's like, so you might check the second yellow cards. Oh, he's made a definite yellow card offence. He should go, or you want to rescind it. But what if the second one is like a clear yellow, but you know the one earlier in the game was harsh? What?
Yeah, you can't go
Then
back to
what?
that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, more nonsense.
We don't need more.
Less technology, please, not
We
more.
don't need more of this. Yeah. Yeah.
No. It's not the worst result for Arsenal. There will be probably, I imagine, a bit of a split between Arsenal fans at the moment who will be calm and recognise they were nowhere near their best last. I mean, I'd say that's near enough as bad as I've seen them play this season, actually. They were nowhere near their best. It's a challenging away game. Not many sides have gone there and won. Only Forest and Manchester City have gone there and done so. They're seventh in the league. If you got an advantage at the top of the table and you're going away to the team that's in seventh, unless it's right near the end and you're having to win every game, a draw is not the worst result. However, I also think there will be a group of Arsenal fans who are panicking.
Just because it's been so long, isn't it, since they've won it?
Well, and it's City have just quietly put a few wins together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how long since they fucked it at Tottenham?
Yeah. Don't know, to be fair.
Is it? It's not even 2 weeks, is it?
Yeah. Feels longer, doesn't it? But yeah. Yeah, I think maybe it's no bad thing to have the FA Cup this weekend, actually, rather than another league game. Just sort of breathe and let the dust settle a little bit. They're still in a great position, Arsenal. I did have a look at the remaining fixtures for both City and Arsenal this morning, and I mean, both of them have got reasonable fixtures. There's obviously that the elephant in the room is that clash at the Etihad in a few weeks' time. And there's the Carabao Cup final, which will be another added strand to it all, really, isn't it? But I would still try and, if I was an Arsenal fan, try and look at the positives, really, in terms of the position that you're in. And yeah,
it is scarier when you're in front. It doesn't matter if it's top of the league, bottom of the league, you're challenging fourth, fifth, whatever.
Yeah.
It is, in a weird way, it's scarier when you're in front rather than when you're doing the chase.
Yeah, and City do look a lot better now, don't they? The new signings they've made have Gay's really sort of shored them up at the back, and Semenyo's already providing. So, yeah, I understand the concern, but Arsenal's still the best team in the country for my money. They were poor last night, but with the fixtures they've got, they can still be optimistic that they'll get the job done, I think.
So on last night, look, Saliba's a miss illness, and those who went there, you have my sympathies. Because you would have gone, right, well, it's double. Okay, I can't get, there's plenty of people going, I can't get Gabriel. I'll go for Saliba. The irony is that actually, if had Gabriel been sent off, you'd have probably been in a better position having the zero from Saliba. The problem for them last night, I think, was in the first half, that was the worst I've seen their press in a very, very long time. It looked really disorganized across the front, caused partly by Gyökeres, but I think more so on Madueke and Eze. There was a moment towards the end of the first half where there was like a half press into the centre backs, and the ball was played out to Rico Henry, and rather than Madueke going towards the ball, he was backing off. And it's just not the sort of thing you see from Arsenal. Yes, once you engage into their territory, they'll make it narrow and difficult, even like some of the weaker teams. But at the top end, when they're going for an aggressive press, to do it as well as anybody. And it was not right last night. He's obviously ended up scoring an important goal. Saka will do that element of the game much better. That's a non-football thing. That's an off-the-ball stuff. And I'm afraid to say Martin Odegaard will do it much, much better than Eze. I was sitting there at half time last night thinking the only reason he doesn't take Eze off here is a consciousness that this has happened before. Because it was not right at all off the ball. And I know Arsenal fans, some of them are beginning to be a bit marmite by Martin Odegaard. Have said this several times over. I don't understand that.
He's a top player. Yeah. Arteta obviously realised, didn't he? So because Eze was hooked at half time. I must say, when the teams came out, he was the one in the team taking Saliba aside, because nobody was. There wasn't really any whispers that he wasn't going to be available. But when I saw Eze was in the side, I was quite surprised at that. And I love Eze as a player, but it feels like since the hat trick against you at the Emirates, it's not really happened for him at Arsenal, has it?
Well, I think just bar that game, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I think because of the off the ball demands, where he's so articulate, Arteta, in terms of what he's doing, it's not criticism, it's a compliment. We may need to expect, actually, not just now, but in the future, with Arsenal signings, that there'll be a longer adaptation period than perhaps there might have been in the past. I was even thinking about that Gyökeres, actually, who's a player who's been, I'm going to say ridiculed, but people have undermined a little bit. And even wondering if he might just be a lot better next year, once he's had a full year of acclimatization. I also think Havertz at the moment is, I know he's missed the majority of the season, but he'd been back. He's a big miss. I'd said a couple of weeks ago, 100% he'll want to play Kai Havertz away to Tottenham. That'll be a miss for them.
Yeah, it will. He's a great player, Kai Havertz. Even with Gabriel Jesus is back now, but yeah, Havertz just offers something completely different, and especially in those bigger games and bigger away games as well. He just makes the team better, I think. So yeah, not sure how long he's out for, Havertz. It sounded reasonably lengthy, didn't it?
Not long, I don't think, but
Right.
certainly until probably at least after the North London derby. And obviously, Bukayo Saka, he's aiming to be back for the North London derby. Well, he'll start at Wolves next midweek, I should imagine.
Mm.
Okay, let's move on to the other end of the table. Yay. Let's start with Nottingham Forest, who announced the dismissal of Sean Dyche barely 3 hours after, not even 3 hours, I don't think, after full time against Wolves on Wednesday night. First of all, what was your reaction to that, David? The news, was it gut instinct surprise, or?
I was not surprised in the sense it's Forest and it's Marinakis, although I guess technically it's Edu's job to do the hiring and firing. But I think we all think we all know it's Marinakis behind it all, isn't it?
My opinion on that is yes.
Yeah,
And I think I've read a piece on the Athletic this one, and they've essentially put a lot of the, listen, Forest fans will love him. What he's achieved there is net positive, but a lot of the blame on this season goes on Marinakis, and some of them decisions are him on manager.
Yeah, I was just going to say about Marinakis, like, he's a massive part of the reason why Forest are back in the Premier League and playing European football, and Forest fans are very sort of defensive about him. So I completely get all that. It does seem from the outside looking in like not an ideal way to run a club. You know, this constant churn of managers doesn't seem best practice, I don't think, especially when you had Sean Dyche in at the club to supposedly try and keep you up, and Forest aren't in the relegation zone at the moment. It makes me think what's changed to think that he's not the guy anymore to keep you in the Premier League. And I can only think that the players just aren't having him. I've read bits and pieces to say that there's quite a lot of player power at Forest, and rumours. You're never quite sure how true any of this stuff is, but whether they've not enjoying him as a coach, as a guy, his training methods, and if that's the case, it's best to just make the change now. With, as you said yesterday, probably one of the few lengthy gaps to get a replacement in. It sounds like they've not messed about, which is to Marinakis' credit. He's not just fired him and then thought, what do I do here?
I think there's two sides to this.
They're out of the cup, obviously, so they don't play until the Europa League. So there is a little bit of time.
And that's why I think both Tottenham and Nottingham Forest have made their decisions now, because there is a bit of time. Although, as we'll cover in a sec, it doesn't sound like Forest are pissing about with their decision. I think there's two sides of looking at this. The first is I think the instinct is, as kind of said yesterday, Sean Dyche is appointed as Nottingham Forest manager. What's your expectation? Your expectation is, oh, he's going to win me the Europa League, like it wasn't, right? Or he's going to get us back into the top half. It wasn't. That's like a commitment, having gone from Nuno to Ange to into this to go, right, this is in a bad spot. You're proven at getting people potentially out of this. We know what we get. For me, it would be get to the end of the season and almost inevitable that Forest would then in the summer appoint a different football manager. That was my view. The view also is, well, you might be making your life worse by removing someone who is experienced of people managing teams in and around that area of the table and on most occasions getting them out of the shit. Doesn't mean the next manager might not be better though and improve things. I think also though you have to take account of what's happening within the club. See lots of people analyse what's going on at clubs and tell football fans how they should feel and shit like that. The booing at the end of the game, I know a lot of it now is kind of hearsay of, oh, my team didn't win, I'm going to boo them because I paid money for this. But it was quite loud and it was quite frustrated during the game. And also, I think from Dyche's own perspective, to relate to what you said about maybe some of them weren't happy, I think people should go back and look at his interview after they lost to Wrexham in the FA Cup.
Yeah, he was scathing, wasn't he? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he said what he basically said. He said I'd substitute the whole team at half time and stuff, and people have been given a chance. And almost like paraphrasing, now I know.
yeah.
So
That's dangerous. Yeah, very dangerous to do
you're
that. Yeah.
creating a divide within the squad. There's a few people that, hang on, is he talking about me? Even if like you were one of them who regularly plays and was out, is he talking about me as well? And yeah, I think you can't really do that anymore unless you've got real authority within a football club, and he hadn't been there long enough to have that sort of authority. So I think that was a mark of, oh, that's a little bit concerning. And yet I want to say the West Ham win was 4 days later, I think I want to say, which felt absolutely crucial. But that is worth remembering, even within that, that easily could have gone the other way around. And I think Forest fans would probably say, in terms of Premier League performances, since Sean Dyche took the job, there's probably only two really good performances in there. Me and David would both like to say hello because we were on the receiving end of them.
I still can't believe that one. Yeah.
Well, we lost 3-0 and we should have lost by more. Although it's just another very bad day for Tottenham. We'll get to them in a second. My question before we talk about Vitor Pereira taking charge is, who do you think will be Forest manager in April?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Because I know you said yesterday, don't rule them out, sort of rolling the dice again if
No.
Pereira doesn't hit the ground running. He had a pretty much an immediate impact at Wolves, didn't he, Vitor Pereira?
A brilliant impact. From when he took over to the end of last season, over that period, Wolves sixth.
Yeah, and they do have some good players, Forest. I mean, there's no reason to think he shouldn't. But certainly better team than probably Pereira's Wolves team was that he walked into there. So yeah, I don't really get changing the manager so much, but I understand it if Dyche is basically seen as a net negative. I think that's always what you have to ask yourself about a manager. I will say Vitor Pereira, assuming he's going to get the job. But yeah, I agree with you. He's shown that he's not one to piss around if he thinks things are going in the wrong direction. And with an international break remaining in March, he does have another window to twist again if
so mental, isn't it? You're literally going, this guy might be 5 games.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case, right? I think Vitor Pereira has got tactical flexibility. I saw this myself in the game. Actually, one of Wolves' best performances this season. Guess who that was against? Yeah, my team. Wolves should have won at White Hart Lane that day. They put in an outstanding second half performance where he changed the system, where actually they played in the back four and he went to a back three and it looked negative in the immediate, but actually they pressed so much better in that system and they should have gone on and would have deserved to win the game. So I've seen in-game tactical changes from him. We've seen primarily, I think in that spell at Wolves, it was most commonly a back three and worked very well. The switch to the back four didn't work so well. I don't think that means that he's coming into Forest and he's going to play a back three. because quite frankly, they've got two good centre backs, Nottingham
Yeah.
Forest rather than Frey, and we should factor that in. I think Aina and Williams could do wing back roles, but they've also got a lot of players who want to play on the touchline. You know, where does Hudson Odoi fit in if you play wing backs and stuff like that? And he's a good ball carrier for them, obviously. So I'm not sure how that will work out. My point in referencing the kind of March international break is I'm being very serious. If Forest lose to Liverpool, Brighton, Manchester City, Fulham at home, and then at Tottenham before the March international break, he won't be there afterwards.
Oh, if he loses all of them, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Um,
But it doesn't have to be. I don't think it even has to be lose all five. Like I think they could have a run like, oh, draw with Liverpool, draw at Brighton, lose to City, draw with Fulham, get beat at Tottenham, 3 points from five or something, and he still would maybe go, right, I didn't get my bounce with you. Open the door. Next.
what I'd
And
say is like,
I'm sorry that that's the judgment, but I did predict that Sean Dyche would not be the last night
yeah,
in the Forest manager this season.
no,
It's
you
no
did. Yeah.
surprise to me.
I'd be interested if and when Pereira's unveiled what sort of contract they give him because it clearly doesn't matter, does it? But at least say, just give him a contract till the end of the season rather
No,
than.
but if it's just till the end of the season, why would you take it? This is we'll kind of bleed into Tottenham in a sec, but that's the problem. Tottenham have got a massive problem right now. Whereas Forest, it's Forest. You could say, "Oh, looking interim," but Forest just want to keep fixing the state. If Pereira, the most likely thing here is Pereira does the job. If not, the Forest stay up, he starts there next season, and in September,
Gets the
it's shit
sack.
again. It's that again, but it's the
Rinse
most
and
likely thing
repeat.
at the moment.
Yeah.
It's only two people who've escaped it, really, is Nuno and Cooper, right? And if you do as well as either of those two have done, then you'll carry on. But Mark Summers told us this pretty much seconds before their second season. He said, your man always wants to improve. If they ain't, that was almost the worst thing Nuno did last year was, oh, we finished seventh. Right. We'll now change the football and finish like higher and stuff. And that was always going to be like really difficult. So if he keeps them up, and let's say they go on and finish 14th or something like that, Marinaki's view on that will be, well, you've done so well at the end of it. I expect you to finish top half next year.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a realistic expectation now at this moment. It's possible, but it's not realistic.
Of course it's not. No. Good luck, Vitor.
But they are in a better position than Tottenham in terms of trying to sort out what they do. Because if Tottenham had chosen Vitor Pereira as a short-term option, I don't think you take it because he's only going to get offered the job till the end of the season. Why would you do it?
Because it might go well and you might get a new contract. That's why you take it.
You ain't. Because it's very, very clear to me that Tottenham are hanging out for the manager of the United States of America.
Poch, yeah.
I don't see any other circumstance. For me, it's the only reason why Thomas Frank has lasted as long as he has, was knowing that they want to go back for Pochettino in the summer. I'm 90% confident that Mauricio Pochettino will be Tottenham manager next season. I'd said as early as sort of the autumn period that I thought that there was a chance in hindsight that Thomas Frank was appointed with the view being that he was only going to be there for one season. So rather than, oh, we'll have this type of football, let's get a safe pair of hands from the Premier League that will make sure we don't end up in a relegation fight. And if he turns out to be amazing, then fine, he carries on. If not, go back to the guy, because what's the worst thing that'll happen? Well, the worst thing that'll happen is we'll finish in the bottom half. Unfortunately, yeah, relegation is a very, very, very real prospect for Tottenham. And I certainly acknowledge that Tottenham might not be better without Thomas Frank. There are things that we lose. We're the second highest scorers from corners and set pieces in the top 5 leagues in Europe. We are, as I called us a long time ago, very Arsenal light. We are set piece FCB, basically. There are things that we will lose. And it doesn't mean whoever's going to come in is going to add in, oh, the football's going to be good. The football doesn't matter now anyway. There's just desperation for results. But Thomas Frank wasn't going to get them. An absolute disaster reign. A PR embarrassment, even dating back to his first press conference as Tottenham manager, where he said 100% certainty is we will lose games. And then proceeded to reference the Arsenal Invincible team to say that, oh, even they lost games in the cup that season. There's been in joking, we believe, from players about how much he kept referencing Arsenal and how much they played. Listen, if you're at Tottenham, you don't want to keep hearing about that. I know they're a very, very good side, but you would very, very quickly get like sent round the bend by that. If I'd have been a player there, I'd be like, you need to stop talking about them, mate. Speculation of hour and a half sessions on long throws.
Fascinating stuff.
The Arsenal Cup incident at Bournemouth. Your lack of awareness. Every time he spoke, it got worse and worse. In his interview, which I didn't watch back until after he'd been sacked, by the way, on Tottenham's club channels on Tuesday night, which for the umpteenth time I responded to him and stop doing these interviews. You've got to move this guy on. 20 seconds into that interview with Ben Haynes, who's a big Tottenham fan, and unfortunately he's having to do that interview in club accompany line, as in the football club line. And oh, Thomas, well, what was the positives today? Bullshit stuff, narrative. Thomas Frank breaks almost into laughter and smile. It's ridiculous. I think he lost the players massively a long time ago. I've got a piece coming out on Talking Tactics for our advanced tier patrons later today, actually on Christian Romero, the liability with him but incapable without him, looking at the game at Burnley and the shape that Tottenham end up in that football match in the second half is players going out to bat for themselves. Absolutely certain of it. No control of it. There's been reports that after we got battered at Arsenal, and we're lucky it was only 4-1, that Christian Romero called a meeting with the players to discuss Frank's tactics and what's going on here and stuff. In response, Frank, in a team meeting, said people need to kind of buck up their ideas in terms of discipline and stuff like that. To which the next day, several players, including the captain, reportedly turned up late, presumably intentionally, to undermine him further. I recognise it's not all his fault. The players are a big problem at that football club. That behaviour is unacceptable. But it is at that point, it's everyone should have gone, this ain't fucking working.
Yeah, it's untenable at that point.
No, of course it is. And that is the end of November.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much from the Fulham home game onwards, that should have been enough. And I think he's escaped this long genuinely because of the fixture list, not the champion. Oh, we've done this, that, and the other in the Champions League. Discussed this before. Look at the positions of the teams that we played in, right? Couldn't have dreamt of a bit of fixture schedule. But the fact that we kept having them games meant it was never a break. That's why my assumption was that after we lost to Aston Villa in the FA Cup, that was like, right, that's enough now, because we had a free midweek. Then West Ham happened, and it was like, well, there's another game in 3 days, but you can't be there. And then they put on their one good performance of the season, basically. Well, I say their one good performance of the season, their one good home performance of the season, because against Borussia Dortmund, they started with tempo and energy and thoroughly deserved to win that night, which may well have been an influence of John Heitinger, who had joined the club the week before. John Heitinger is highly likely going to be Tottenham's interim manager. The reason he's highly likely going to be Tottenham's interim manager is there is nowhere else to go.
No, the Ryan Mason option's not there anymore, is it?
No. We think they've sounded out a few people in terms of doing the job interim, because they'll hear what the crowd have chanted for Pochettino, and that's where they're going to want to go.
Tim Sherwood's put his hat in the ring.
Yeah, Tim Sherwood. Harry Redknapp has told everybody else that they're on cuckoo land. And people calling for Harry Redknapp. Harry Redknapp said, I don't live on cloud cuckoo land. I'd love to do it. Yeah, sure you would, Harry. Yeah. And all these former players who said, oh, Harry'd be a great choice. Harry Redknapp hasn't managed for 11 years. What's going on, guys? He's 78. Love Harry, bless him. But football's in a different era to 2012 when he managed us. This is silly stuff. You get absolutely annihilated tactically with the way football has evolved since he was manager of Tottenham, and we would near certain go down. They sounded out Robbie Keane. The word from Robbie Keane is, I ain't taking that shit on an interim. If you want me full time, I'll take it. Well, either way, that's still a risk, isn't it? You're pointing, love Robbie, bit of a ledge at the club, but he's done very well out in Hungary.
Seems a bit soon for that. Be a hell of a jump, especially with the situation that you're in.
People keep asking me about De Zerbi. Listen, people know that I love Roberto De Zerbi's football. I don't need that chaos right now. And by all accounts, Roberto De Zerbi is not interested. He certainly would not take the job on an interim role. No one, even Gareth Southgate, I was like, they ain't going to take it on an interim role.
No.
They're going to be give me the job or disappear. So Tottenham have backed themselves into a corner. What they should do, really, is say to the USA, right, how much is this really going to cost? Because the cost of going down is going to far outweigh that. And it's probably the best bit of business Tottenham would do. If Tottenham brought Mauricio Pochettino in now and got him out, I mean, they've got to get him out of his USA contract, then we'll probably be okay. Because just the vibe around the whole football club would just instantaneously change.
We'll come on to the overlap in a bit because obviously Ange was on it, but I watched all of it up until the predictions bit at the end, which is neither here nor there. But
Yeah, same.
I was listening to them talk about Tottenham, and I thought it was pretty basic and poor analysis in a lot of it. To be honest, I think because I'm spoilt by your stuff on Spurs, and you obviously know the club so much better than all of those people that were around the table on the overlap. Well, the kind of the best bit I took from the pre-Ange bit was when Gary Neville was saying about sacking Frank and how much it would cost. Saying, yeah, it might cost like however many million, like 10 million quid to sort of sack him and his backroom staff. But if they go down, it's like it's going to cost them 120 million and stuff like that. And when he laid it out in those terms, it's like, yeah, you should have done it sooner, but yeah, the expense is the last thing you should be thinking of about buying out his contracts. Just
Roy Keane kept going on, 26 games.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
okay.
was particularly weak on all that stuff. I thought Keane, yeah,
But Roy, it shouldn't have got that far. And actually, that's the emphasis. And this Tottenham, in fairness, have said this in their statement. We've tried to give him time.
yeah,
The club has said that. The word within Tottenham ITKs at the moment is that neither Johan Lange or Vinay Venkatesham wanted to sack him even now. And they were told by the Lewis family, right, enough. Apparently, they were told prior to the Manchester United game, if it's 0 points from the game against United and Newcastle, then that's it. You pull the plug. And they still didn't want to do it. Now, if that's true, let me tell you, the problems at Tottenham are beyond the manager. You're absolutely right. The fan base are going for Johan Lange next, and they'll be going for Vinay Venkatesham after that as well. And I would not be surprised, irrespective of what league Tottenham are in next season, if those two people are not at the football club. So it's not just, Frank, this. No, no, no. We're very aware there's big problems at the football club. What the Thomas Frank thing does do, though, is I think that, let's say, the more high profile clubs in the league, in terms of, let's say, riches or income, revenue, whatever you want to put it, are not going to make a decision like this again for quite some time. Michael Cox did a really nice piece on The Athletic with an absolutely fascinating graphic which shows appointments that have gone from one Premier League team to another, where they've joined one of the big six or Everton over the last 15 years. Why Everton? Because they're a bloody big club. The reason Newcastle and Aston Villa are not included in this list is because they have spent time outside of the league. Therefore, at various points, their expectations have been a little bit different, i.e. Unai Emery wasn't appointed from another Premier League club, but they were in danger of going down and that shows how well of a job he did. Newcastle were fighting relegation when Eddie Howe was appointed, right? Those are the last two appointments from those two football clubs. So that's why those two teams have been left out of this. What this graphic shows is it shows the games that the managers went on to manage at the clubs that they then joined from the Big Six and Everton, and what their average possession statistics were at the club that they left. The orange dot shows Thomas Frank and where he sits in that. Now, they're kind of all grouped together. There's a few outliers to cover off first. Firstly, lowest possession number here is Sean Dyche, who actually lasted going towards 100 Premier League games after going to Everton
it's more
from
than
Burnley.
More than the Everton fans wanted.
I absolutely am aware of this, but there were also difficulties there in the time in terms of PSR, fighting relegation. At that point, there was a kind of a survival mentality at Everton. Ultimately, like him or not, Everton did not get relegated under Sean Dyche. I totally understand and accept that Everton fans didn't want him and were very happy when he's gone, and I agree with them. He's an outlier in terms of the number of games that he lasted. In terms of the three managers who lasted over 100 games And by the way, it's over 150 for two of them. It's 300 nearly for one of them, and it's just over 150 for others. Those three managers are really interesting. Roberto Martinez lasted just under 150 games for Everton. Roberto Martinez went in and they played some good football.
Yeah, they did.
Lukaku, Barkley, etc.
That
Good side to watch Everton.
the first iteration of Everton under
Was he the
Martinez, wasn't
first? He wouldn't have been the first on after David Moyes, was he? I don't think.
it?
Yes,
Oh,
he would have been. Wigan won the FA Cup and he went there. I think that's right, isn't
yeah,
it?
I think he was. Yeah, yeah,
So you had to follow someone who'd been there for 10 odd years. Whenever anyone goes who's been at a club for a really long time, we go all the difficulty of who's going to be next and stuff, right? I think even Arne Slot won a league title and he's still feeling some of those difficulties now. Everton achieved their highest ever points total under Roberto Martinez. And actually, by the way, in many other Premier League seasons, that points total would have got them into the Champions League. I realise it went very south towards the end, as it also did for Brendan Rodgers, whose Swansea team played some brilliant football. These managers, by the way, Martinez averaged well over 50% possession in a Wigan side that got relegated. On For Brendan Rodgers at Swansea, it was well over 55% average possession. Again, I know it went very, very south, but Brendan Rodgers, whether it maybe had a lot to do with Suarez, Sterling, and Sturridge, I totally understand, but very nearly won the Premier League. That is a reality. And so too did Maurizio Pochettino, who of all these managers to go from a club in the Premier League to one of these six and Everton had by a distance the highest average possession at his former Premier League club. Circa sort of 58% possession with Southampton in the season before he took the Tottenham job. Other managers, by the way, who have joined those seven clubs from another Premier League club in the last 15 years, Graham Potter is an outlier in the sense that his possession numbers at Brighton were very good, sort of circa 54%. That obviously didn't work. But I'd also argue, as Michael Cox also argued in his article, that Chelsea, of the bigger clubs, are probably less fussed about possession football as some of the others. And the other one is actually David Moyes, who had in excess of 50% possession in his last season at Everton before going to Manchester United. It didn't work. All of the others at lower 50%. The only one to make it more than 50 games was Ronald Koeman.
yeah,
If you look at an example like Oliver Glasner at the moment, I think many of us think have done an absolutely brilliant job on the whole at Crystal Palace, outstanding towards the end of last season. Their possession numbers are some of the lowest in the Premier League. I would be amazed if any of the big six decided Oliver Glasner is going to be our guy. Because you
yeah.
certainly should not look at this and think it's okay.
When I saw this, I thought of Marco Silva actually because I wasn't totally sure what his possession stats are at Fulham, and I haven't got like an average figure, but I was basically going through their recent games, and they are around the 50% possession mark. Fulham, depending on opposition and whether
I
whether
think they
they're
might
at,
even be a bit higher,
yeah,
in fairness, yeah.
they've got decent ball players who can keep the ball, I suppose. But he would kind of fit around this category of would a big six club. I mean, for example, he was kind of getting in with Iraola and Frank when they were the three you were talking about, weren't they, before Frank was appointed at Tottenham. I would have concerns whether he would translate to a big six club. He's obviously had the Everton job and got the sack from there as well, hasn't he? It didn't go particularly well for him. So yeah, there are a few pretty disastrous examples here, aren't there? The thing I was going to ask you about in terms of just seeing Potter's name here, and Frank's obviously another example. The three really well run clubs, Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton. Is there a danger of just taking their coach and putting them into a big club where you're taking them from a club that's obviously very well operated, where they are just one cog in a well run wheel, and asking them to do more at a big club? We've seen a few examples now with Potter and Frank where it's just not worked, has it? For example, Keith Andrews obviously having a great season, and if he has another good season next season, I would say if Tottenham, for example, were to appoint Keith Andrews, I wouldn't say it would go particularly well again, to be honest. So there's just so much to consider when you're making a managerial appointment. You just never know how it's going to go, do you? It's just there's no one size fits all formula for getting a managerial appointment right. Yeah, sometimes it's just not the right guy, is it?
Marco Silva for the record for you, David, it's 51.4%,
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
which is a higher number
Mm.
than Tottenham Hotspur. I nearly said Thomas Hotspur then. Jesus Christ, that would have been bad.
Thomas Hotspur.
Andoni Iriola for the record, 49.1%.
Yeah,
Fabian Hertz's Brighton, actually 52.7%. Um, in a weird way, you look at them numbers and maybe make the case that Hertzler actually would be the right profile to make the jump. It wouldn't look that way on the eyes now. We'd go, oh, Andoni Iriola. My concern on Andoni Iriola is more about the 3 game per week stuff. If you're managing a club that's in European football, would concern me. Actually, would be my biggest concern. I really like Andoni Iriola. Point being here is when managers are appointed for clubs with high expectations, of which, whether you like it or not, mine does have high expectations, certainly at least from the fan base. And that's off the back of where we finished over the course of the majority of seasons over the last 20 years. They should not be going down this route of possession in terms of low possession managers. It is actually more about substance rather than output is more important here.
it's
Look
what
at
you
the
it's what you
example of
say as
Vincent
well, isn't
Company.
it? Yeah,
Vincent Company. Oh my God, Bayern Munich have gone for Vincent Company
yeah,
from
yeah.
relegated Burnley. What they identified with Burnley and Vincent Company was that Vincent Company had something that was scalable to jump up.
That's a great
They'd seen
example.
something. His intent, it matched to his detriment at Burnley, right? To keep trying to play a certain way. Ultimately, was something Burnley could not cope with in the Premier League. But they'd seen something that suggested he might end up being an elite football manager. If Vincent Company lost the Bayern Munich job in the summer, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
That's the reality.
yeah.
And that's the sort of manager is more befitting for my football club. Now, I realise that at the moment, if we stay up or we go down, attracting a top manager is going to be very, very difficult. And money talks, by the way. Thomas Frank was the 3rd highest paid manager in the Premier League this season, which is part way again. It's going to go back to Pochettino. I'm fairly certain. It won't go back to Ange.
No, just
Love him.
just to
And
finish
and
this off.
and what happened with Thomas Frank, by the way, don't change that. It's still the right
No,
decision
no,
to sack him.
no. I agree. Yeah, just before we get on to Ange, I think as much as a factor as like your playing style and your possession style is just how you are as a person as well, and what you say and how you carry yourself at these big clubs as well. So Frank, I mean, we spoke
It
about
was a
that.
PR disaster.
His PR disaster, and he never seemed that way at Brentford. But maybe he
No,
just said, maybe we just didn't listen to him or hear from him as much. But the stuff he said about Vicario, when the fans started booing him, he was saying, any Spurs fan booing him is not a true Spurs fan. You can't say that and get away with it. Hodgson on this at Liverpool, I mean, that's a pod in itself. It was some of the
we could
worst.
we could do that sometime if you want.
I'd rather not if you're
Stupid managerial quotes towards their own fans.
when you're losing a Merseyside derby at Everton and saying it's our best performance of the season. Like that isn't going to fly with
Oh,
them.
and I mean, he kept saying that as well, Frank. He kept saying, "Oh, the performance is getting better."
I was there when Northampton beat us on penalties at Anfield in a Carabao Cup, and he called them formidable opposition. It's like, well done, Northampton, but you can't say that. Whereas Rodgers is a bit of a comedy character, but he did have massive belief in himself to sort of think he belonged at Liverpool.
He had the ego to carry it,
He had
didn't
the
he?
ego to get, and you do need a bit of that at
Like
these
Ange.
big clubs. Yeah, and Ange did as well. We'll get onto him, I guess, now. But yeah, it's there's no one size fits all approach for big clubs appointing a manager, certainly from within the Premier League. But this graphic is quite stark, isn't it, in terms of some of the ones that have gone wrong.
Yep, agreed. Okay, Ange, I watched the overlap last night. I think you did as well.
Yeah,
Or stick to football as a sub of the overlap. What did you think of Ange?
he's a great listen, isn't he?
Of course he is. Yeah.
He's only on it for about 20 minutes, I think, isn't he? I don't quite know what happened there. Is he coming back or something to do a proper? They were
Yeah. So
joking about
he's
that,
on next week
right?
to talk more about his career as both Celtic, his journey and life and stuff like that, maybe.
Right,
And
okay.
maybe just general football chat. So the idea was Gary Neville said, he said, like, the cat's out the bag. We basically record 2 at a time.
Right.
So they've obviously planned this one as like a current events,
That makes
and then
sense.
there's
Okay.
like have a special with Ange next week. Ange rocks up to the studio for the second recording, and Thomas Frank has just been sacked
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Tottenham. You couldn't write it. What would have been better written, by the way, if it had waited another 24 hours and Sean
Yeah.
Dyche had been
Do
sacked
the
as well?
Forest one as well. Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
few people have said, maybe Ange wasn't the problem. No, but he's also part of it. It's worth saying.
Yeah. There are a few things I took from it. First of all, he's just great to listen to.
He is.
Kind of off duty Ange. It just seems such a nice,
Yeah, he is.
genial fella.
He's two people. I say that all the time.
And then when he's in a job, and certainly when it's not going very well, he comes across as a bit of an arsehole
Arsehole, yeah.
quite a lot of the time, who you wouldn't want to spend any time with. And that contrast is quite interesting, I think, from a psychological point of view. Like I listened to him on Stick to Football and thought, yeah, I'd love to have a beer with you and just chew the fat. There are a few things that I thought were very interesting about. He was quite critical about Tottenham, I thought, in a lot of ways, just in terms of the hierarchy, saying he never really spoke to anyone from high up. I thought possibly the most interesting thing he said was that he knew he was done, and he said
we knew he was done.
The moment they would have gone out of the Europa League, that would have been it.
Gone.
To hear him sort of say that out loud was quite interesting, because he said, nobody was asking me about pre-season plans the next season or anything like that. And when that's happening, you kind of know that your time's up, basically, which makes what he said, at the parade quite funny, about season 3 even being even better.
It was
in the sack, I have to say.
It was a last chance grenade that maybe I might stay, basically.
Yeah, he was just a bit of a Hail Mary to try and see what happened from the stuff he was saying. He said some things about wages, which you've said before. We know Tottenham aren't the biggest payers, but you reeled off a few names of like the two lads City have just bought, Gay and Semenyo. Wanted Pedro Neto.
Boomo
he mentioned, yeah. But he said he basically got Solanke, who he did want, and two teenagers who I assume he's talking about, Archie Gray and Bergvall there, I presume. But yeah, he was talking about when you set foot in the training ground, you see Sedaris to do everywhere about Tottenham's mantra, and he said the club don't operate like that at all. They play it very safe. That's how Levy did anyway. Whether that's going to change now he's gone, we'll see. It was just a good. He didn't hold back, I thought, which made for.
And I don't think he should need to. I think the comments have caused a bit of a split amongst the Tottenham fan base in terms of how they feel of it. I personally don't have a problem with anything that he said. And actually look at what he said as almost like a positive in a kind of a nicer way than, say, Antonio Conte did it when he lost his absolute head in that infamous post-match press conference at Southampton, which made his position untenable. The things Ange Postecoglou said here would get him the sack quite clearly. He's not manager of the football club anymore. It doesn't matter. But that's now out to everybody to have a better understanding of what the problems are at Tottenham. The only thing I would point out, and this isn't acted as a major defence of the club, because as I've just told you, the fan base are coming for Johan Lange and Vinay Venkatesham as well, is that Vinay has made it very clear that one of the things that they really want to strive to change is the wage structure. He has been clear on that. And I think if you look at, say, the signing of Conor Gallagher and what he's earning, it's a lot more than he probably should be, etc. That's probably the start of some change there from that perspective. Tottenham, the label of Tottenham don't spend money is incorrect. You can look at pretty much any table since Tottenham, I was going to say pretty much the table, if you will, since Tottenham got to the Champions League final, and you'll find Tottenham right up the top in terms of net spend.
Transfer fees, they don't.
Right up the top.
Competitive, yeah.
But you will find them below Aston Villa in terms of what they spend on wages.
Yeah.
It doesn't correlate. And Gary Neville, I thought the best point he made on it was actually, and him and Carragher, was you don't judge by net spend. It's wages.
Yeah.
It's wages. You pay for the best. What salary? You spend 100 million on a player and shit and that's 10 grand a week, whatever.
That's what matters to players and agents at the end of the day, isn't it? So, yeah.
So I I don't think certainly that's how it was until the end of Ange's time. And obviously, remember Daniel Levy went in the summer as well. The wages now they want to change. They're not going to if they get relegated, by the way, but that needs a little bit of time to try and change as an emphasis. That can't be judged yet. Ange isn't wrong in terms of what he said it because that's his experiences. In terms of what he said about how everyone acts at the club and so there is to do being everywhere and them acting as like the antithesis of that, I don't disagree with him.
No.
I don't think deep down many Tottenham fans would disagree with that. I didn't take the they're not a big club as an insult because he knows, and if you listen to the full things he says, unbelievable stadium, unbelievable training
Yeah.
ground, fan base, etc. He's like it's all there, but the people at the top don't act like they're a big club. He referenced what Daniel Levy said to him for the Europa League final. Well, kind of always lose these games, don't we? Like,
That's funny, that, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Daniel Levy was probably the most frightened person that day. And Daniel Levy was desperate for success. I always defend Daniel Levy from that perspective, that he wanted the best for Tottenham. Tottenham don't look better right now without him. They might do in a few years, by the way. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with some of the stuff. It's quite blunt, a lot of it, and it's all, are you attacking me? No. No, it almost felt like he was speaking just a lot of stuff that Tottenham fans feel and probably don't want to openly admit.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like a lot to me.
Yeah. No, it's a good listen. It was only 20 minutes worth catching if
It is.
anyone
It
hasn't
is.
seen it.
And when Angie's happy, I always say it is absolutely engaging to listen to. And that
Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel won't be the next Tottenham manager. That's for certain. He's signed on a new contract with England. England have drawn Spain, Czechia, and Croatia in a thrilling Nations League draw and some fixtures I cannot wait for. We await the World Cup, though. A lot of the theory on this, David. He signed a new contract extension, which will take him towards the shared home European Championships in 2028. A lot of the theory here is that it takes away the speculation of, what's Tuchel doing after the World Cup and stuff like that. We're not just going to have the same problem in 2 years.
It's a few people have made the comparison with Capello, haven't they? For the 2010 World Cup, he signed a new deal. And then the question is, if we have a World Cup like Capello had in 2010, what happens then, basically? I think he's obviously done really well so far, Tuchel, but you can't judge him until the World Cup is the reality.
He's not really played
Yeah.
anyone that will need to beat to win a World Cup. Let's put it that way.
And there's been no, you can't really knock anything he's done because you can't have much of a better record than what he's done so far. But the thing with Tuchel so far is he's been a gun for hire and he's always been going after the World Cup. So he hasn't really needed to think about playing young players for the future in England's team, like Adam Wharton and things like that, because it's not something that's hasn't been something that's been in his in tray, really, because it's for the next person to deal with that. So now he's staying for another, is it 2 years, is it?
Yeah, to 28.
There should surely be an expectation for him to think about that sort of things now, rather than just let a team like with the likes of Harry Kane just play for another 2 years and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not a big England guy.
I think Harry Kane will still be in the team in 2 years, by the way.
Yeah. But there needs to be some sort of thought about, although there aren't really any sort of, his backup is up.
No one even knows who they want as the backup striker. And
yeah,
there's half a chance it won't be one.
No, maybe not. Yeah, I'm not a big England guy, to be honest, but I don't really say it's good or bad news, but it'll be interesting if England do completely bomb at the World Cup, what that looks like now he's got another 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I just find the narrative of all it takes to talking away interesting when the same thing will probably happen in 2 years. I think when they appointed him, it was kind of unknown how much he really wanted to do the role because he'd been a club manager and there was no indication that he wanted to get into international management at the stage of his career. He felt it was an opportunity to go and manage England at a World Cup that he couldn't turn down. What seems to have developed more recently is that he's really happy and enjoying doing the job and can foresee himself doing it for longer. England obviously want him to do it for longer, and it's fine. I think this idea that, we're going to appoint someone on an 18-month contract or 2 years, whatever it was, and your remit is to win the World Cup, which is, okay, let's crown the best team in the world, but it's not like a 38-game league season, is it? It's a cup competition. Ultimately, one player can make a silly decision for you on a football pitch and you're done.
Missed
Right,
penalty.
it's
You don't.
not.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that there's two chances at it. Personally, I think it actually takes a little bit of pressure off. Forget the on off field stuff. I think it takes a little bit of pressure off of him on the pitch to know himself that there might be another opportunity for him, and I'm sure there will be. Because there's every chance England could walk into a Mexico away in the last 16 and get beat. And what we're saying, oh well, you failed. It's
Mm.
not necessarily the case, is it?
No, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I don't get me wrong.
Usually,
England going in the last 16 would feel like a failure, but can they lose a one-off away match in the Azteca? Yeah, most teams could actually. Yeah,
yeah, 100%. Usually, you'd think with an international manager, a World Cup's like a good time to sort of move on from a manager and build up towards the next World Cup, which is 4 years away. But they've decided not to do that. I've got no problem with it, to be honest.
yeah. I'm absolutely fine with it. Right, let's finish off with a cut of final bits, shall we, David? FA Cup fourth round this weekend. I'm just interested to know how much you interested in it.
I watched
You're in it.
Liverpool.
I
Yeah,
don't give a shit.
yeah, giving us a game at home on Valentine's night. Cheers for that.
I'd be so grateful for that. Me and the missus literally discussed this in a car yesterday. I said, Tottenham aren't playing Valentine's weekend. I was like, what am I meant to do?
yeah,
She did miss the opportunity to go, well, at least this year you won't get your heart broken again, but she didn't.
nice. Yeah. um, I'm going to watch bits, but I will be honest. Like I've watched football every night this week, and it's like I am seeing it as a bit of a breather from it all. To be honest, like I've got no plans to watch. Is it Hull Chelsea tonight? I it's a shame because when I grew up, I used to absolutely love the FA Cup, but the way it is now, with like spreading it across all from Friday to Monday, almost no games on Saturday at 3 o'clock. I am a bit of a traditionalist for all that. You know, like Macclesfield Brentford should be absolutely must watch, and I do plan to catch it on Monday night, but sticking it on a Monday night's a bit shit, in my opinion. It's yeah, I don't know what you can do to bring it back really, because the reality is as well, like most coaches, even outside of the Premier League, use it as an opportunity to sort of rest and rotate their players as well. It's no one's, certainly at this stage anyway, it's no one's priority really. It's yeah, I feel like the genie's out of the bottle really to sort of pull it back to where it was in our childhood. Really, it's yeah. In answer to your question, I won't be glued every night to it. That's for sure. It's
No,
just the way it is.
no. I might have Chelsea on as background tonight because I still think there's interesting notes on Liam Rosenior in terms of how he might set up and stuff and see some of these maybe players on the fringes a little bit. And also, Hull were going, as we'll cover in a sec, quite well in the championship. Like, there is a chance there of a potential upset. But I don't know if the ground will be full there tonight. It might be half empty. I don't know if there's huge interest from the whole supporters. Maybe there is. You hope it's a full stadium and they go there and play high tempo and it might become interesting. If that is, I'll get more interested in it. Otherwise, no. Wrexham and Ipswich, who also play tonight, play each other in the championship next week. And I would suggest that championship game is probably more important to the two of them. Although for Wrexham, there's the greater exposure of the FA Cup and remember television shown abroad. If they play a Premier League club in the next round, all those sort of things. There were four 3 p.m. games. Man City against Salford. Leicester go to Southampton. I'm sure they can't wait to see them again. More on them in a second. Norwich host West Brom. Burnley against Mansfield. Those are the games that you can't see in the UK on television. Oh, and Port Vale against Bristol City as well. Sorry. Villa Newcastle. I'd be quite interested in watching. Um, Villa have obviously got a real packed schedule with the Europa League, but are desperate for a trophy. Newcastle might look at their trip to Azerbaijan in midweek, and I don't want to say sack it off, but Newcastle fans have put a demand as well, so that's interesting. As discussed with Sam on COTC last week about Brighton, like Brighton now, the pressure on to do something more as a consequence of Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup last year. This means more to them. I wouldn't be surprised if they go and turn you over, David, like they went and turned Manchester United over. Because I presume are you gonna rotate? Do you think?
Well, Slots had his press conference this morning, and he I think the team might be slightly stronger than people think because
Okay.
we don't play midweek, or we don't play for another 8 days after the game. there's training today. He's going to see how people are and what they tell him. We spoke yesterday. The squad's fairly thin. Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see like Rio Engamoa get a start on the left, or maybe a trainee only in midfield. But I think Slot was very, very complimentary about Brighton and Hertzler in his press conference. So I don't think he's under any illusions that it'll be a potential banana skin. Yeah, Brighton decent.
The lunchtime game is Burton against West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take my boys swimming. So I might have a little look at the Saturday night games. I think subject to lineups and stuff. I remember you playing Wolves, I want to say, at this stage a few years ago, and it became quite chaotic. Was that third or fourth round? It was a night game, wasn't it? And it was like, I won't watch that, but then it ended up staying on and was very good. And that was the infamous replay.
Yeah. Shall I play the noise?
No, please don't. Please don't make the noise. But remember, guys, when you open something on social media, have the volume down in the first instance. Sunday, Birmingham Leeds, Grimsby Wolves, Stoke Fulham, Oxford Sunderland, Arsenal Wigan. With apologies to all 10 of those teams, I'll be doing something else in my life. I mean, Arsenal against Wigan is the 4:30, the kind of the prime time game on the Sunday, a second string Arsenal side. Nah, you're right. Brentford, I'll watch the Macclesfield game. You got to tune into that. I think that's the game you want to watch, really. Just to say,
agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Final bit of closure on the championship. We did allude to something interesting that happened this week. But firstly, if it was worth just looking at where we're at, for the majority of teams, 15 games to go. Certainly all of the top 8 have got 15 games to go, except for Ipswich, who have 16. Ipswich are in third at the moment on 54 points. That's 5 points behind Coventry, who are no longer top of the league. Middlesbrough went above them with victory at Sheffield United on Monday night. I watched the second half of that. I think you caught quite a bit of it as well, David. Hayden Hackney's a good player in midfield. I know that. And the boy, who's the boy at centre back? That's a good player as well. They recently signed from an American club.
Malander, is it?
Something
That's
your guy, yeah. They're on a bit of a run, Middlesbrough. Coventry were obviously miles clear. It's now 1 point from the last 3. A draw at home to 10-man Oxford. They lost at QPR. They lost at Norwich. And you can take that back further, can't you? There was wins against Millwall and Leicester.
They've not won an away game since November.
Is that right? And there was one win for the previous 6 before that. And I mean, they were on this staggering run of goal scoring, particularly earlier in the season. They'll be very much looking over their shoulder now. So it's Middlesbrough 61 points, Coventry 59, Ipswich 54. Also on 54 is Hull, doing really well. Millwall are on 53 points in 5th. That's despite the fact they've only scored 39 goals in 31 games. But in credit to them, they've only conceded 36 from those games as well. Middlesbrough have the kind of best per game goals conceded record. Ipswich have conceded 1 less, but obviously played a game less. I'd say it's probably those top 5 for the automatic spots, David, or would you consider someone else behind that as potential to make a run? I'm saying specifically for the top 2.
Yeah, for the autos, yeah, you'd think so. Although it is such a mad league, the championships, isn't it? The playoffs is always that's always fascinating, isn't it? Towards the end of the season, there are a couple of clubs in the playoff hunt to keep an eye on. I think Sheffield United, although they're down in 17th at the moment, I believe from a data point of view, they're showing up pretty well. I know they got beat by Middlesbrough the other night. They are on the rise. And Norwich too, who were right near the relegation zone up until recently, they sacked their manager and got Philippe Clement, former Rangers coach. And since he's took charge, they've been on the rise as well. So there tends to be a sort of a bolter, doesn't there? Sort of towards the end of the season, the championship, who can sort of scrape into that final playoff place with a fair amount of confidence. Wrexham are actually in that at the moment, so it'd be some story if they went up again, wouldn't it? It's a fascinating league. My brother-in-law's a Norwich fan, and he said, in all honesty, I think you did a pod with the relegated sides,
yes,
to this effect, saying that although it's nice to be in the Premier League, it's actually a lot more fun, sort of week
winning
to week,
games.
winning games and sort of being in a competitive league. And
Well,
yeah,
give me sort of 10 months or so, and I'll let you know what I think of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It's a good league.
um, Coventry and Middlesbrough play each other on Monday night. If you don't want to watch Macclesfield against Brentford, so look, there is the opportunity there on Monday night to watch the current two in the Championship. Who Middlesbrough went down. I want to say that's our last season at White Lane, 16-17
Yeah, that
season.
feels right. A 16-17. Yeah,
And Coventry, I want to say was 2000, 2001 under Gordon Strachan, I
Strachan.
think.
Yeah,
So look, the two sides that many of you might be unfamiliar with. I'll try and catch that, I think, if you can, Monday night. Towards the bottom of the table, Sheffield Wednesday, unfortunately, going to be gone. Close, we think, to a potential takeover. They're on -7, obviously, several points deduction hits this season. Their effective real points is actually 11 points. They'd still be comfortably bottom of the table. They're going to go. Let's hope I'd certainly hope they'll come back quickly. A good, well supported football club. I know some good Wednesday fans. I hope that they come back strong next year. Oxford are on 28 points in 23rd at the moment. Blackburn Rovers, former Premier League winners, are on 32 points, joint with former Premier League winners Leicester City. Leicester City recently had a 6 points deduction. Remember this hanging over of the PSR issues that they had. They've finally been done, although it's under Premier League jurisdiction, but points deduction given by the EFL. It was actually recommended as a 7 point deduction, I understand, but was downgraded by 1 point on the basis that their most recent financial results had shown a lot of improvement from the previous years beyond that. Although they're lucky to get off with failure to cooperate and stuff, the fact that they were dancing around, oh, which league are we getting deducted from? Yeah, and now it's come at a bad time because that does put them outside the bottom three on goal difference. And what happened in midweek will not help matters. And Southampton fans who have suffered multiple 9-0 defeats, including that famous one against Leicester, finally avenged this and can have their own night that they can say against Leicester. 3-0 down at half time. They came back and won 4-3 at the King Power in midweek. Southampton also in up to ninth. Wouldn't rule them out of contention of certainly getting in a playoff place. Above Leicester, Portsmouth on 33 points. West Brom on 34 have had a real bad season of it. Their away record is particularly dreadful.
they're dreadful. Yeah,
And then there's a bit of a jump up to on 39 points, Norwich, who have been on a much better run and got themselves out of trouble. Sheffield United, you've just said the data's really good. And Charlton are also on 39 points and actually at home to Portsmouth this next midweek, sorry. So can extend that gap. So it feels like we've got at least one former Premier League name in Sheffield Wednesday that will go down to League One. I would suggest one of Blackburn, Leicester, Portsmouth, or West Brom, and maybe even two of them may go with.
mm-hmm. Is it worth us having a look at the League One title race to see what grounds you might get to next season?
I've been talking about Sinsel a lot, David, so that will give you the time to give me an update of League
Cardiff.
One.
You must have done Cardiff.
I've not done Cardiff. Tottenham have only played there once at the new stadium, and that was on New Year's Day. It was awkward.
Lincoln. Yeah, you spoke about that. Bolton.
Yep.
You must have done that one.
Bolton I've done, yeah.
Stockport.
No, I've not done Stockport. Go on, keep going. Make me laugh.
Huddersfield. You must have done that one.
Huddersfield have done, yeah.
Bradford.
No, not done Bradford.
Luton, obviously.
Luton have done, yeah.
Peterborough.
Peterborough have done in a friendly, yeah.
I won't go any further down than that, to be fair.
Thanks. That'll do for now, and that'll also do us for the podcast. Thank you very much, everyone. Just a note to say, obviously, no game review podcast next week because it's FA Cup. You know what that means. Chip podcast. I don't know when the draw is going to be yet, but I'm assuming that it's Monday night. Therefore, Chip strategy podcast for you on Tuesday. Otherwise, audio listeners, 5-star review goes a really long way. YouTubers, smash a like, hit the sub button. If you can support us on Patreon, we'd be very grateful. www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Otherwise, be nice to each other. Have a great weekend. Cue music, please. Man child.